All right. Hope you guys can hear me okay. Hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you are watching this video, I always have to say it, this is a posted live stream, and if you want to be a part of the live streams, we do this every single morning. Make sure to please subscribe, turn on your notifications, leave a like. That helps out a lot, but it also helps you to see the live streams and to see the videos. That's just the way it works on here. And hello to everybody joining the live stream. Good to see you, James. I think you're always one of the first ones to join the streams. And make sure you guys are please liking the stream. It helps out a ton from the live audience. Thank you guys. So I'm gonna do my best to consolidate all of the news stories most relevant to you guys as far as what's happening right now. So very, very, very recently, Tom Homan just did not an interview, but a speech, if you will. He's talking about downsizing the federal forces in Minneapolis by 700. So 700 federal agents will be leaving Minneapolis. But he also gives a very stern warning. That doesn't mean the job is over. And not only that, we're not going to fully leave until the job is over. Tom Homan also talks about his cooperation, talking to the governor, the mayor, and the chief of police. Something really interesting happened. I'm sure you guys heard about these checkpoints recently. The checkpoints in Minneapolis, or these roadblocks of people asking, are you an ICE agent, looking into license plates numbers? It turns out Tom Homan has a lot more power than people realize, and I've been saying that. Just because Chief Bovino is gone, it doesn't mean Tom Homan can pull some strings and take care of that problem. And he does, so we'll talk about that. And as you guys know, this week there's a ton of back and forth right now between lawmakers. Talking about abolishing ICE, reforming ICE, getting rid of Kristi Noem, and so on. So I have a lot of clips of that. And we also have some more drama in Portland. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. If you're new here, I covered Portland from June every single day to like October. That's a very, very hard story to cover. It's emotionally draining. But it looks like I will have to put my boots back on and get back into the Portland scene. We'll see. Because a judge out there has restricted the use of munitions from federal agents as far as pepper balls and tear gas against protesters. Yeah. So, we're going to talk about that. We have some other pretty big stuff, too. We'll get into a bunch of stuff, so let's start. Here we go.
Before they release them, they don't hold them 1 minute past they normally would. Given this increase in unprecedented collaboration, and as a result of the need for less law enforcement officers to do this work in a safer environment, I have announced effective immediately, we will draw down 700 people effective today. 700 law enforcement personnel. We have also fully integrated CBP personnel into the ICRO team structure under one unified chain of command.
Okay, so a lot of people are overlooking how significant this is. Do you guys remember last year there was a lot of there was this notion that Border Patrol chiefs were going to be in charge of different ICE locations or field offices around the United States, and like Chief Bovino was supposed to be the guy in charge of that. He gets to pick who's in charge of what field offices. Well, now we're seeing what this looks like. We're now seeing an integrated unison federal force as far as Border Patrol and ICE. Many people get this twisted. Although they both deal with deportation operations, they both operate a lot different than the other agencies between one another. ICE is more covert. ICE, they try to do more targeted operations. If you need the proof and evidence, we saw what happened in West Virginia. That was an ICE operation, and you guys did not hear a thing about it. Nobody did. Border Patrol, they're a little more aggressive in their tactics. They're more broadly, they can ask you questions, they can interrogate as far as inquire, are you a citizen, are you not a citizen? Now, ICE can do that, but they tend to not do that as much as Border Patrol. So now we have kind of a melting pot of these two agencies working together. So we'll be paying attention to see how that's going to go down.
Not 2 chains of command. There'd be 1 chain of command here. Any large enforcement operation I've ever been involved with, there's 1 chain of command, and that's where we're moving forward. During my press conference last week, I announced that moving forward, ICE will be conducting targeted immigration enforcement operations, like ICE has traditionally done for decades, based on reasonable suspicion to question and detain. ICE will
Okay, so again, 700 agents leaving Minnesota, or really the area of operation in Minneapolis. There's still a lot of federal agents out there, guys. Just because it's 700, I mean, there are still, I would have to assume 1,500 to 2,000 agents, because the last number I remember was like 3,000. And Tom Homan has always said he thinks it's a little too much.
Attorney General Mayor Fry and law enforcement officials about increasing coordination in a lawful way between the county jails and ICE to avoid public safety threats being released back in the community. While we had our differences, one thing was clear: we all committed to public safety for all who live in the Twin Cities. We have made significant progress under the direction of President Trump, working with state and local officials here in Minnesota, and I expect that to increase in the coming weeks.
Okay, so you guys know within, like, I think it was yesterday, yeah, those statistics came out yesterday or the day before, where the Trump administration kept showing the stats that, hey, when you cooperate, things can get done. Americans want cooperation. It turns out, Tom Homan is reporting, there has been a lot of cooperation between the mayor and the governor. So much cooperation that all of these retainers are starting to be swapped over to federal agents to look into, as far as if you're an illegal immigrant in a jail, you can be deported.
We continue.
And again, if you guys are joining, make sure to please like the stream. It helps out a ton, so the other T-SPLY subscribers or whoever can see what's going on here.
To have discussions. I'll have discussions this afternoon. We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets. Unprecedented cooperation. And I'll say it again. This is efficient, requires only 1 or 2 officers to assume custody of a criminal alien target rather than 8 or 10 officers going into the community and arresting that public safety threat. This frees up more officers to arrest or remove criminal aliens. More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street doing criminal operations. This is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement. It's safer for the community, safer for the officers, and safer for the alien.
Okay, so you guys can let me know how you feel about that. Do you think Homan made the right move? Do you think he made the wrong move? Again, according to him, the reason why we're seeing downsizing in the state of Minnesota is due to cooperation. Now, this to me was also pretty significant. Let's pull this here real quick. Again, we talked about those roadblocks, or, I don't know what else to call it. These checkpoints that were coming out of Minneapolis, as far as people asking if you're a part of ICE. It turns out Homan actually talked to the chief of police in Minneapolis to sort this out.
Sworn duties to enforce immigration law that Congress passed is unacceptable. And it's shameful and incomprehensible to me that this unlawful and threatening behavior is being tolerated by anyone. As far as what I saw yesterday with the roadblocks being set up, you're not going to stop ICE. You're not going to stop Border Patrol. The only thing you're doing is irritating your community and want to go get groceries or pick their children up or whatever. I talked to the chief of police, and he committed to taking swift action on those illegal roadblocks.
Okay, so the reason why this is rather significant is because it was reported those roadblocks were up there for a couple of days, not a couple of hours, but quite literally a couple of days when we look at the timeline of when the independent journalists were starting to film this. But it goes to show that Tom Homan, in my opinion, has a lot more power, or a lot more, I guess he can push a little bit more, because he's Tom Homan, directly connected to President Trump. And look, I know Chief Bovino, he is out of this area. A lot of people who don't like ICE saw that as a great thing. But I think now people are starting to realize with Tom Homan in Minnesota, things can get done a lot faster, and having a direct line of communication with President Trump, things like this get accomplished. As far as some communication or some partnership, I will definitely be tracking, what the response is to this, either from the city council or from the mayor. But this did happen.
Illegal. We shouldn't tolerate them. Again, a complete drawdown is going to depend on the cooperation, continued cooperation of local and state law enforcement, and the decrease of the violence, the rhetoric, and the attacks against ICE and Border Patrol. The federal law enforcement personnel, ICE and CBP, and other partner agencies are patriots. And they've carried out.
Okay. Now, the last big takeaway from this very recent speech, again, and then we will move on. Don't worry, guys. We have a lot to talk about. The deportations will continue. The arrest will continue. Although Tom is very gentle the way he speaks, I think he's actually a lot more aggressive than people realize when it comes to what the Trump administration would call these mass deportations.
For those who are not a national security threat or public safety risk, you are not exempt from immigration enforcement actions. If you're in the country illegally, you are not off the table. And let me be clear, President Trump fully intends to achieve mass deportations during this administration, and immigration enforcement actions will continue every day throughout this country. President Trump made a promise, and we have not directed otherwise. I heard rumors we have, untrue. Given that many public safety threats on our communities, many of which poured across the border during the Biden administration, it makes sense to prioritize public safety risk right now. Again, prioritization doesn't mean you forget about everybody else. But we have a criminal here, a non-criminal here. The criminal has to be arrested first because they're the biggest threat to the community.
Okay. So again, you guys can let me know how you feel about that. We will be paying attention to how this is going to work as far as Border Patrol being integrated with ICE under one unified command, specifically in Minnesota. Again, this is only for Minnesota, and we do know that the way the Trump administration tends to work sometimes is they like to experiment as far as what works and doesn't work. Washington, D.C., prime example. You flood the zone in Washington, D.C., you send in every single federal agency, you got some National Guard there, and the Trump administration saw what worked and didn't work, and then they sent federal assets straight to Memphis. And now, again, this is going to be new. We'll see what happens here. So, thank you guys again so much for joining. It means a lot. We do these live streams every single morning, all year round. We are not going to stop. So thank you guys again for everything. Now, again, I do want to touch bases on this, the roadblocks that were occurring in Minneapolis.
But the Border Patrol has pulled back to a degree. So we'll see where we go from here. But it hasn't stopped these local community groups from continuing to act against ICE.
These mini chop zones have been emerging. The residents there are still fiercely.
And as of right now, it's being reported that these have been taken down. But like we've seen over in Portland, you can take down an encampment, but maybe just a few months later, the encampment might come back up. Which, by the way, that might be happening right now. So if you stick around for this show, I have a clip for you guys and some reporting on the ground in Portland. So stay tuned for that.
Attempting to resist and blockade ICE from their lawful duties on the ground there. This is some of what we're seeing develop on the ground. So we'll see what Tom Homan has to say. I mean, you think he's been on the ground there for quite some time now, Lawrence?
What are they doing?
But do you see this? So I first had interaction with these guys. They're complete lunatics back in 2020 when I was a correspondent for Sean's show.
A guy died, too.
Yeah, that was in Seattle. So they had these all across the country, but they have another chop zone in Minneapolis and George Floyd Square. The police are not allowed to go in there at all. And you have to get approval to go in there. One time I went there with our camera crew. They completely surrounded us, and we had to negotiate to be able to leave as well. So this is the type of lawlessness that Minneapolis has allowed for years. So now you got the feds coming in saying you got criminal aliens here, and you got massive fraud. You stole the American people's money, billions and billions of dollars. We have a federal investigation, and they're blocking that as well. And the local cops and the city council, Fry, is allowing it to happen.
Yeah, there was a viral clip. I don't have it up here for you guys. We played it a few days ago, where a bunch of cops just walked up to one of these locations and then just left. And then I think that's when the story really started to circulate as far as questioning what is happening here. All right, I think that's all the relevant points. Tom Homan indicating they're in a better place. Now, this is interesting. So, this is yesterday. This was posted by the governor, Governor Tim Walz, and I am curious how you guys feel about this. We hear between Tom Homan and officials in Minnesota that the communication is going great, but then you will get videos like this.
Liam's classmates made us this, and I appreciate that gift. We'll keep it up here to us. To ground everybody in this room and everybody across the country why we're here, I just want to be clear. This is 9 weeks that Minnesota has been under siege by this federal force across all areas.
So, like, even Kristi Noem indicates, Tim Walz has a direct line of communication to me. If he wants to call me, we can communicate. Tom Homan says, things are looking a little better. Even President Trump had indicated, we had some good conversations. And then this was posted yesterday, calling it a siege.
We've seen the horrific results of that in the murders of 2 of our citizens, shootings of another, countless other acts. But amidst all of this week we got an opportunity to breathe a sigh of relief that Liam was brought home. I say that he should have never been gone. We should never have to be. I am not grateful to the federal government for bringing Liam back. I'm grateful for the people who surrounded him and brought him back, and that was not these people. But here's the thing. We don't know how many others are in the same situation that didn't get a photo that went viral. We don't have good confirmation of where they're at. Those are being Minnesotans. These are our children that were taken from us, sent to Texas in the middle of the night, put in inhumane conditions, and then forcing judges to tell them to bring back and bring them.
And I think you guys know what situation this is in reference to. It was the 5-year-old boy and the father situation.
Bring them.
But again, the main point of this is that, we are still hearing the rhetoric back and forth. I mean, Tom Homan quite literally just saying everything is looking a lot better. In fact, he even praised them for other cooperation. And then when you start listening to the talking points, even from the mayor himself or the AG, it's quite the opposite. They're almost saying calling it a siege. They're upset. They're not happy.
Back home.
And Tom Homan, I think, doesn't care either way. The Trump administration said they're not going to fully leave until the job's done.
They call these detention centers tender age detention centers. That is just so wrong. And just such a strange usage of words of how they're trying to justify something that cannot be justified. Again, you're going to report on this, but I am just trying to level set on this. None of this is normal. None of this is okay. None of this makes Minnesota any safer. None of this adheres to the values of this country. All it does is cause terror and trauma to the children who are there, but to the children in their classrooms today who are making little bunnies.
All right, so I think you guys get the point. Again, that was posted yesterday. Now, what was also talked about yesterday, this was pretty massive. You guys know about these signal chats or group chats, organizations who might possibly be organizing or collecting data of ICE agents. This came out yesterday.
With Al Jazeera, the head of a Minneapolis teachers union, well, she proudly admits that elected officials are in signal chats. They're being used to share information about where these federal agents are. Listen.
Okay, right off the bat, you guys can let me know how you feel about that. Elected officials in these chats. Now, again, we were told by Kash Patel and some others that they are looking into it. There are investigations, and that's all we're told. Literally all we're told.
The notion that people that are actively engaged in ICE Watch, in being vigilant in protecting our neighbors, in signal chat groups, running plates in their cars, doing patrols, that somehow we're ashamed of that activity, that somehow you could call our bosses or show our faces and then we would be shunned by our community. Our bosses are in the signal chats with us.
Wow.
Our elected officials are in the chats with us.
Okay.
And I have reached out to the mayor and governor's office to get their reaction to that.
Okay, so that's out there. Now, I don't think you should be surprised by that if it is true. Again, she's saying that's true. If this was last year, I think people would be surprised. But I think this year, after Cam Higby's reporting, and again, it's just a lot more public. People who are in these advocacy groups or protester groups, they don't care. And I think sometimes that's hard for people to grasp that, like, how could you not care if you're possibly committing a really bad crime? And they just don't care. To them, they see this as a movement to, protect the people they're trying to protect. Thank you, CCD1, or I can't tell. Thank you for the very generous $2 donation. Hit the like, y'all. Thank you. And yes, thank you so much for that. And please make sure to please like this stream. Helps out a ton. And thank you guys again for everything. Now, equally as shocking, Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis urges city to take urgent and aggressive stance on stopping illegal blockades. Going back to that blockades. In yesterday's live stream, we actually talked about, I think it was yesterday, a St. Paul police union talking about wanting cooperation as well, or wanting to accomplish tasks that would have to do with making the city safe. Real quick, the Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis does not support private individuals or groups establishing unauthorized checkpoints, blockades, or patrol zones on public streets. No one has the legal authority to stop, detain, question, or search people or vehicles outside of lawful government powers. And if you guys haven't seen the clips, that's pretty much what was happening, like asking who you are and then gathering data. These actions obstruct traffic, interfere with emergency access, and create safety risk for the public. Minneapolis police officers have a duty to address them regardless of the cause being advanced. Officers enforcing basic traffic and safety laws are not taking sides in political disputes. They are preventing chaos and potential harm. Now, the question I pose, or I have, is, if that's the case, then why were they up for 2 days? Because it was going really viral, and I know people were reporting it. So that is the question. If the police officers were never about it, was there somebody above the police? Was it the chief of police? I have no idea, but just letting you know that's out there.
It's been a week since I met with Tom Homan. Expectations have not changed. This force must leave Minnesota. The state of Minnesota and the professionals, nonpartisan judiciary, must do the investigations into the shootings and other abuses of Minnesota's human rights. And this all-out assault on Minnesota across all of state government and all across life must stop. None of this is normal.
Okay, so I'm not sure. We just heard from Tim Walz. The last time he talked to Tom Homan was a week ago. The speech we saw this morning, or announcement, we had that 1 week gap. So again, I am questioning a little bit how much communication there is, but whenever they seem to have lines of communication, it goes well. But look, Tim Walz it looks like he wants all of ICE out of Minnesota. I don't think that's negotiable at all. I don't think Tom Homan or the Trump administration would ever allow that. Here's the mayor recently, Mayor Fry.
So I'm sitting at my desk here and just got some really sobering figures about the impact that this Operation Metro Surge by ICE is having on our communities. And we've all heard about the families getting torn apart. We've all heard about the constitutional violations. We've heard about people going hungry. And in addition to that, there's a massive impact on our small and local businesses. Small local businesses collectively are losing between $10 and $20 million every single week. Businesses along cultural corridors.
Now, this has always been one of the top arguments from the mayor of Minneapolis and also the mayor of St. Paul. One of the reasons cited to sue the Trump administration or try to get a judge to restrict or try to push ICE away out of the state, or really Minneapolis and St. Paul, was due to the lack of business. Now, you guys can let me know how you feel about that, if lack of business is enough of a reason to have ICE leave your city
Doors are down,
or other federal assets.
down at least 50%, and the Latino-owned businesses and Somali-owned businesses are drastically below that. Hotels have lost about $4.4 million because of cancellations. And so for those that claim that they care about our economy and care about businesses, there is a very quick and straightforward antidote to bring these businesses back, which is to have Operation Metro Surge end and to have ICE leave our city. Let's bring the economy back.
So again, they are wanting all of ICE to leave. Their negotiation is, we want all of ICE to leave. There's no like middle ground here. So we are really at a standstill as far as who wants what. Tom Homan has made it clear the only way people are going to leave is if you cooperate. But then we know the mayor says, well, we're not going to cooperate. Moving forward. Oh, here we go. He mentioned that hotels are losing businesses. I just want to point out this article came out yesterday from the Minnesota Star-Tribune. Minneapolis Council Committee delays liquor license for 2 hotels over hosting federal agents. And so you guys can let me know how you feel about that. In one sense, he says, well, hotels are losing business. They're losing money in business because, you know, the booking of the federal agents. But then on the flip side, the Minneapolis Council Committee delays liquor license for 2 hotels over hosting federal agents. So you guys can let me know who to blame there. This hotel is trying to make money. They need the liquor license. They can't get it. But then now he's saying they're losing money because they're trying to book people. Again, I'm just trying to provide you guys all of the details and all the different sides here. Now, I did find this interesting. I'm going to throw this in here as well. This is from CBP. Aircraft targeted twice by laser in St. Paul. St. Paul never gets talked about almost ever as far as being a part of this story. But this was posted, aircraft targeted twice. On January 24th, while supporting Operation Metro Surge, an ASTAR crew was targeted twice with a green laser from a residence in St. Paul, Minnesota. The suspect was observed lasering the aircraft from his back patio. The laser was directed into the cabin and into the eyes of the crew, creating a dangerous situation for everyone on board. Now, we're not getting an indication that that person was arrested. However, we did see this over in Portland. Do you guys remember in Portland there was like a day of lasers where every time a helicopter was spotted, lasers were being pointed at the helicopters. People were arrested for that. And so you can be arrested. It doesn't have to be this same night, but they're able to track where this happened. So we'll see what happens with this. That's in St. Paul. Also, federal judge orders release of 2 men in ICE shooting charged with assaulting immigration agents. A federal judge has ordered the release of 2 Venezuelan men accused of assaulting a federal immigration officer last month outside of North Minneapolis duplex, concluding that they do not present a heightened flight risk. The federal court hearing Tuesday, February 3rd, also offered the first outside glimpse of photographs that raise questions. These are the names of the men. They're required to abide by several conditions of release, including that they remain in Minnesota. I mean, there was a shooting involved here. The shooting occurred 7 days after the killings of Renee Good by an ICE agent and more than a week before the killing of Alex Preddy. A federal affidavit unsealed last month outlines how the agents pursued Ali Horna several miles before he crashed outside his Northside apartment. The agent chased Al Horna toward the residence on foot and scuffle ensued. According to the court records, Al Horna and Sosa allegedly beat the officer with a snow shovel. Do you guys remember this story? They were released. This was a massive story when it happened. This was the same day where that vehicle, was it the FBI vehicle, was being raided and all the images and the photos were being released of like sensitive documentation. That's this night. Their partners who were already inside also described the shooting that way in the immediate aftermath. Oh, sorry. The agents fired a single shot, according to the affidavit, with the bullet passing through Sosa's thigh. Both Al Horna and Sosa have repeatedly said the gunshot came after they had gone inside their duplex and closed the front door behind them. Yeah, so they've been released. That was a really big story. I think we actually reported on that live when it was happening. Okay. So that is pretty much the relevant news right now as far as this federal surge in Minnesota and Minneapolis, St. Paul as well. Now let's get to the back and forth. This is the showdown here. You guys have seen this man before, Representative Shri Thandar. He is the representative who wants to totally abolish ICE and has put in paperwork to do so. He recently appeared on CNN to talk about his concerns with some things going on right now.
Several Democrats are going to go vote yes on this bill, and looks like Mike Johnson would have sufficient votes, but I personally am a hard no on this bill. I think ICE need to be reformed. We cannot have ICE in its current form, creating terror.
Now, he's using the word reform, but again, keep in mind, he actually put in paperwork to have them abolished, by the way.
On our streets.
So right now, Noam says there's going to be body cameras available. Does that make a difference to you?
It's too little, too late, you know, and I don't know if the cameras will be on all the time. Often what we've seen is that just before the heinous acts, the camera has been turned off.
You mean in incidents with police, domestic police?
So I'm not so sure that would be enough.
So some of the things that I know Democrats have called for, mandatory body cameras, but also removing masks,
yes,
ending roving patrols, this question about judicial versus administrative warrants and independent investigations. Do you think that kind of thing is actually going to make it into this next conversation? Like, do you all feel like you have the leverage to force that conversation in the next DHS funding vote?
Absolutely. Look, on February 13th, this period would end. And for the funding to continue, we got to have some kind of an agreement. And I think...
Yeah, again, I'm seeing a lot what you guys are saying. There's a lot to unpack here. A lot of times during his interviews, he likes to jump back and forth. But yeah, he is accusing that this could happen, that, hey, they might shut off the body cameras before they do something bad. And that the body cameras might not be enough. So you guys can let me know how you feel about that.
Democrats need to stay firm. Because we don't want these men, rogue men, running around with masks on.
And he's calling them rogue men.
Unidentified, no body cameras. We just have to, this can't go on.
So are you in the...
Okay, so yeah, let me know how you feel about that. As far as the body cameras are concerned, I personally think this is a good thing. I would assume a lot of you would probably also think it's a good thing. Even President Trump notioned he doesn't see a problem with it. His exact wording was, "This means no one can lie." Now, yesterday, there was a protest. This is Representative Adelita. If you guys remember, first off, she's recently been sworn in, but she is the representative who was down in Arizona. There was that big protest that occurred because there was a federal operation. That was her at that protest where there were like pepper balls being shot. So this is that member of Congress, this representative.
We're here today joined by members of Congress representing New Dems, Progressive Dems, women, Democratic Party, all united against ICE. We want ICE out of our communities. one of the chants was "No mas nom," and I think that that's the one that resonates the most with me. We have people disappearing from our streets, and Noam is using Arizona, Southern Arizona, our home, to be the backdrop of her next photo op and opportunity.
Yeah, and by the way, Arizona does look like to be a new hotspot, if we're going to use that word, as far as one of the next operations that will take place. But again, who knows if right now there's an operation taking place that we don't know about? West Virginia really changed the game as far as, I mean, they arrested 650 people in 2 weeks and nobody knew it was happening. There was not a single ICE tracking app pop up, like nothing like that. There's no TikTok. There's no Facebook. Nothing. So who knows? But what we do know is that ICE has always been on this, Arizona has always been on the list as far as wanting to start or going into the state to start some sort of federal operation.
We're not going to let our communities be fodder to her gaslighting of this nation, and we're not going to tell her that enough is enough. Noam has to go. And if this administration doesn't have the guts to do it, Democrats in Congress will.
Alrighty. Again, we got a lot of back and forth for you guys. You guys have probably seen her before. This is Representative Delia Ramirez, and she is on the House Oversight Committee of Homeland, so keep that in mind. I always think that's quite significant when you have someone who's on the Oversight Committee for Homeland, and they say stuff like this.
Have accountability, and we must bring justice to every fascist in the administration, and that includes Kristi Noem, that includes Stephen Miller, and that includes Tom Homan. ICE will be abolished, DHS will be dismantled, and together we will get it done.
Okay, so you guys can let me know how you feel about that. I can see in the background, this is Representative MacGyver, who's also on the House Oversight Committee of Homeland. She has been charged with assaulting a federal officer. And I think I have some clips of her at some point. We have a ton. Just going through this. Senator Rand Paul was commenting on Chuck Schumer, what he had to say. Senator Rand Paul had this to say: the bigger risk is illegitimate votes and loss of public trust. Voter ID is common sense. That's why I strongly support the SAVE Act. Again, the SAVE Act right now is front and center as far as wanting to get passed.
Short of workers, we have a population that is not reproducing it on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
Okay. Now, it's interesting because that talking point, I think a lot of Americans would also agree, immigrants are welcome, but obviously that's where you get into the divide. From a Republican, conservatives would probably, and look, even a lot of Democrats would say this. We saw the polling yesterday. The legal way. And then on the flip side, I don't know exactly what Chuck Schumer is arguing here. If he used the word 11 million, I don't know if he's talking about all illegal immigrants. I have no idea. As you guys can see, I'm not trying to make these talking points like a roller coaster and back and forth. I am letting the talking points speak for themselves. And sometimes, some Democrats say we got to do things the right way, or then they'll say, they'll just call people immigrants, but they're also referring to illegal immigrants. Or they'll say they want to reform ICE, and then the next day they say they want to abolish ICE. So sometimes I'm just as confused as you guys are, or maybe, when it comes to all these different talking points.
There's nothing in these Democratic demands that would actually abolish ICE. Or, as I've heard so many Democrats say, tear it down to the studs. I think they say that if they don't want to say abolish ICE. And so is abolishing ICE then just a talking point if that's not really in the demands?
No.
Again, even CNN is asking, you guys keep using that talking point, but how is that even possible?
Look, I think it is about what we have the power to do. And I have said for some time, going back to 2019, I've said we should dismantle DHS because DHS was only a creation after 9/11. It never existed before that. All of these agencies.
You guys can let me know how you feel about that. I don't want to keep stopping, but again, we go from one talking point to another big talking point within a matter of 5 seconds per clip. I mean, for me personally, I don't see what is relevant with that talking point other than America realizing we might need an agency to protect something happening within the United States, but you guys can let me know if you disagree or agree.
These were in different places. The immigration piece was within Department of Justice. And actually, the enforcement part of the immigration piece was a very small part because immigration is a civil system and it's dealt with administratively. There needs to be some enforcement, but not in the form that it is today.
Again, another confusing talking point. There needs to be some sort of enforcement, but not in the way it needs to be.
This is the largest militarized force that we have.
So I just want to know what exactly is the enforcement. That's all I personally want to know, so then we can deep dive and then we can get accurate talking points from both sides, and then as Americans, we can see what we think about that.
Is immigration for a civil system. So that's what I think needs to happen once we have power back in. We need to really dismantle DHS, and we need to put these agencies in places where they belong and where they can't be misused and weaponized against the American people.
I suspect you are not voting for this 2-week funding for DHS.
I am not voting.
Okay. Congresswoman Omar?
I represent Minneapolis, which is currently under occupation.
Again, so she's calling it an occupation, and Tim Walz calling it, was it an invasion, or did he also use occupation? He also used one of these words.
We do not exaggerate when we say we have schools where 2/3 of the students are afraid to go to school. We do not exaggerate when we say we have people who are afraid to go to the hospital because our hospitals have occupying paramilitary forces. We do not exaggerate when we say our restaurants are shutting down because there are not enough people to drive the employees to work and from work. We do not exaggerate when I say we have people who are housing other people because they are afraid to go home.
Okay, so again, just trying to show you guys what she has to say. Yesterday's live show was kind of a very one-sided show. I really try not to do that, as far as a lot of it was like on the Trump talking points. I try to give you guys a little more equality here so we know what both sides are saying and you guys can actually determine what's going on. And so just so you guys are aware, a lot of this is going to be a lot more left-leaning as far as the talking points, because for whatever reason yesterday, a lot of Democrats went on television and were doing speech and protest, so we have a lot more clips from them. I think Republicans right now are just trying to figure out how they're going to get the SAVE Act passed and do what the president wants.
ICE reforms are what Democrats who you caucus with are demanding. Do you think they're going to get to a deal in the next 2 weeks?
I surely hope so. I think the overwhelming majority of the American people are shocked by what they are seeing. This is the United States of America. You're seeing guys in masks paid by federal tax dollars knocking on doors, sending 5-year-old kids into detention centers, shooting several people, occupying an entire city, intimidating city. In fact, there was a Republican candidate for governor in Minnesota who dropped out of the race, and he said, I can't defend what the Republican National Party is doing. Driving while Asian, driving while Latino is not unconstitutional. So the racism and the violence is extraordinary. And I think the American people are saying enough is enough.
Okay, so we haven't heard too much from Bernie Sanders after he did that whole tour. I forget what the tour was called. It was him and AOC. Was it like the oligarchy tour or something like that? We haven't heard too much from Bernie Sanders ever since that tour, so it kind of puzzled me to see him front and center when it came to this. I don't remember what that tour was called, but that went pretty viral as far as some of the images coming out of that tour with like a private jet. Now, here is Congresswoman LaMonica MacGyver. again on the House Oversight Committee for Homeland Security, and we are tracking her story very, very closely. So if you guys want to subscribe, like the video, or turn on notifications, we were covering Delaney Hall when it happened the week before, as far as the interaction with her and allegedly assaulting Homeland Security officers. That's what she's been charged with.
Because this administration is trying to put me in prison for 17 years for standing up to the department she leads, for standing up to ICE, because that is what this administration does.
Okay. I think I had another clip of LaMonica MacGyver, but yeah, here we go. We have to watch this. Again, I find it rather fascinating. She is saying she's innocent in a lot of what she did, but also this is what she has to say.
Democratic Congresswoman LaMonica MacGyver. She has been fighting to reveal the conditions within those ICE facilities across the country, and she remains now charged after being arrested outside of one of those facilities in Newark, New Jersey.
She tried to get the charges dropped, 3 of them, and the judge did not drop any of the charges, so keep that in mind.
Thank you so much for joining us now. Since your arrest outside of that immigration facility, ICE has become even more aggressive in their task of fulfilling a 3,000 a day quota to pick up undocumented people. Federal agents have now killed 2 people protesting their actions in Minnesota. Do you think that ICE should be abolished, or just that their leader, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, be impeached?
Well, I believe we should, first of all, thank you so much for having me, but I believe we should be doing both. I think Secretary Kristi
Again, the talking points can be a little confusing.
Must go, and we should definitely abolish ICE.
There you go. She wants to abolish ICE. Now, I'm not sure if she changed her mind as far as all of a sudden she wants to abolish ICE. I don't know if she was more in that reformed camp. But we are seeing a lot more politicians, Democrats, who are leaning into just straight up abolishing ICE.
We are far beyond the measures of reforming. They had billions of dollars in budget, just acting reckless and, inserting cruelty onto Americans. And literally, we just don't need that. We're better off without them.
And of course, I keep saying this in every live show, we will probably be seeing a lot of mainly Democrats wanting to try and impeach Kristi Noem. So we will keep an eye out for that. Let's move on to here. This is Representative Jackie Rosen.
What are some of the sticking points? Because now, apparently in Minnesota, they're going to put on the body cameras, but they're still wearing the masks. And historically, the people who have the masks on, when they're trying to engage in law enforcement activities, they haven't been the good guys. My earring keeps going because it's like, yeah, this is crazy.
That's right. Well, I can tell you that they are not.
Now, by the way, I do want you guys to keep in mind, just to try to be fair to this story, over in California, there was a lot of pushback against the state passing the mask law out there. And 3 days ago, even the police chief said, I'm not going to enforce that law. My police officers are not going to have an armed agency versus another armed agency walk up on ICE or federal agents and ask them to take their mask off. And so keep in mind, there are police agencies, even inside of these sanctuary states, who maybe wouldn't say they would work with ICE with deportations, but they were not the biggest fans of the mask law themselves, because that puts them in a bad spot too, as far as not being able to wear a mask in a tactical situation. And that's a whole nother talking point. I'm not going to go down that route. When we use the word mask, are we talking about a gas mask? Are we talking about a mask like a scarf?
The good guys in this case, because every other law enforcement, state and local, what are they trained in? Number one, de-escalation. Number one, they wear body cams to protect themselves and protect the people that they're working with. And if they violate the law, there's uniform codes of conduct out there that we expect from everyone. So what we want are the guardrails that we have from all of our state and local government, a uniform code of conduct, proper training, no masks. You don't see our state and local police walking around with masks. They have their badges on. They come up to you in a car, unless they're on a super sting operation. Okay.
You guys heard that, unless they're in a sting operation, but I want to talk about that in a second. I just want to say thank you to OHW. Is it Wicked? Oh, Wicked Wand. I'm sorry, I can't see that name. Thank you for the very generous $10 donations. You said, great news today. Thanks. Well, I appreciate you, and God bless you, and God bless all of you as well. Thank you guys so much for being here. Listen to this real quick.
Code of conduct, proper training, no masks. You don't see our state and local police walking around with masks. They have their badges on. They come up to you in a car. I mean, unless they're on a super sting operation.
Unless they're in a super sting operation. So this was actually the point the police unions were trying to make in California, was that when you make a blanket mask law, and the general talking point is you cannot wear a mask, this is meant to, we want people to know that you're the police. Now, unless you're in this concealed environment and you have to be concealed, how does the everyday American know this? Are they reading through the bullet points of the law, or do they just assume at all times you can't wear a mask? That's not my argument or talking point. That is quite literally what the police unions in California were saying. Like, we understand what the point is, but let's say we do have to mask up and now people in the area are taking our pictures. It creates a liability. That's according to the police unions.
They aren't afraid to do their job, and the number one thing they're taught is de-escalation. And I'll tell you, one thing that I heard somebody say to me, and others have spoken about this, is that, imagine you're in an urban area, you're walking down the street, you and a couple of friends, and a van screeches up, he stops, a bunch of masked guys come out in camo and gear and masks and God knows what, in an unmarked van. They grab your friend, grab a couple people, shove them in, because what does an undocumented person look like? I don't even understand that premise. People.
Okay, so you guys can let me know how you feel about that. Just trying to give equal weight to all of the different talking points here. I think the mask as of right now is not negotiable, but I do think Todd Lyons hates the mask. He's said it time and time again. I think the only thing, if Republicans and Democrats want to come together on something, would be more training. And I'm not saying ICE is not trained enough, but I do think somebody who served in the military, you can never have enough training. You can always train. So if there's something where Republicans give a little bit to Democrats to try and get something, to try to get something passed, I think it's going to be, okay, yeah, we'll do more training, or we'll have a monthly train up. That's my opinion. I think that's the only way, as far as this reform, where we will see some sort of cooperation or unification in something. Possibly. Who knows? I'm trying to have a positive outlook here.
A bunch of appropriations, Department of Defense. Here we go again. It's $8.4 billion more than what Trump asked. Department of Labor, Human Health Services, $221 billion. These things just keep going. Exceeds the president's request and includes funding for programs President Trump zeroed out. Oh man, there's a lot of stuff in here that just there's earmarks for transgender surgeries on minors, abortion, syringe.
So this is Tom Burchett having an issue with some of the attachments to bills that are going to get passed. Tim Burchett, representative from Tennessee. All right, I really want to get to these statistics. Newsmax did a really good job talking about this as far as polling saying one thing and then lawmakers saying another thing. As far as Americans not... I'll let the clip speak for itself. But we have some lawmakers who are saying, they don't want cooperation. They don't want the SAVE Act. They don't want ID. But then the recent polls that came out say the complete opposite, apparently.
Okay, despite all the noise and the human purple-haired popsicles in Minnesota, turns out Americans still support deportations, like mass deportations.
And I did coin this as one of the biggest wins right now for the Trump administration, because the last poll we got was in the summer, the big poll, that was sitting around 67% of Americans are generally okay with deportations for anyone. 90% as far as criminal deportations. So it looks like this stat, or nothing has changed.
Making sure illegals don't vote in our elections either. Again, the Democrats find themselves on the wrong side of an issue. Shocker. Now, this new poll shows that overall, 61% of Americans support the deportation of all illegals.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that number was 67% in the summer. So I don't know why. I mean, that's a very slight drop, but that's still a lot.
So if you're for laws and stuff, congratulations. You're in the majority and you're not crazy, despite what your liberal in-laws scream over your dinner table. But if you break this down even further, it gets even crazier. It shows just how absolutely detached the Democrats are from the rest of America. Look at this. This is the fundamental difference in the issue. Despite what the actual law says, that coming here illegally is in fact a crime, hence why it's called illegal immigration. But check this out. Only 48% of Democrats, apparently they can't read, but only 48% of Democrats can read and understand that breaking our immigration law to come here is illegal, whereas Republicans apparently have...
Again, the question is, people who enter the U.S. without legal permission, are they breaking the law? Now, I know he's saying that this is a low number, but I actually think this is a lot higher than people would assume. And that's in my opinion. And this statistic really does justify the one talking point I keep making, and I was hoping I had a data point to relate to, so now I have this evidence. We do not hear the talking point. It is not a crime to come into the country illegally. We do not hear that at all anymore. We used to hear it, but we don't hear that anymore, and I think it's because of this number right here. Almost 50% of Democrats would disagree with that talking point. That is a lot. If you're going to make that talking point, a lot of people would disagree with you and would probably not vote for you again if you keep making that talking point.
Have a 99% literacy rate because that's the percentage of Republicans who think that illegals are in fact...
And by the way, a lot of Democrats actually watch this live stream, or left-leaning voters, if you will.
Illegal. You know, enough to win an election. But the average 73%, obviously, too. So is what it is. Democrats, I don't know why. This poll makes just even more puzzled that Democrats are taking the stance that they are, asking, is illegal immigration a problem? Now, look at this. Only 33% of Democrats said, no, not really, which actually tracks from what we said yesterday because that's their new voter base, which leads me to what people think based on party of what ICE should be doing. Let me say that again. What ICE should be doing, again, testing the literacy rate of the left, because 81% of Democrats, okay, do not think that the agencies that's literally called immigration's customs enforcement should be enforcing immigration laws.
And that's where these stats get highly confusing, and if you don't understand what's going on, that's what he's trying to point out. There's a bit of a contradiction in what the belief is, where Democrats will say it is a crime to come into the country illegally, okay? So then you would assume if it's a crime, then you would support the people who would, take care of the crime. But no, that's not the case. On the Democrat side, 81% say they don't support the crime, or they don't support the agency taking care of the crime. So... Again, when it comes to these polls, I don't know how this was done or anything like that, but these are the numbers that are circulating. And we actually pointed this out in yesterday's show, and I was a little confused. And I'm glad I'm not the only one who's a little confused by this, because it looks like, I don't know if it's a contradiction or maybe a misunderstanding.
Immigration laws. Only 16% of libs thought the agency literally named that should be doing that. All right, so riddle me this.
All right, so you guys can let me know how you feel about that. But either way, I do think that is massive for the Trump administration to have data points and some analytics in their favor as far as continuing deportations. And a good chunk of, even though Democrats might not specifically support ICE, their support for deportation. So I don't know how the Trump admin is going to navigate that, but maybe that's why Tom Homan combined Border Patrol and ICE to create a new unique element under one command. If you guys are just joining, that's what's happening right now in Minnesota. The combination of Border Patrol and ICE. Okay, so let me know if you guys remember this story. ICE HSI investigation leads to guilty plea from former Des Moines superintendent. Do you guys remember this? The Des Moines superintendent? Ian, a criminal illegal alien who was hired by Des Moines Public Schools as a superintendent, pled guilty January 22nd to federal charges following an investigation led by ICE Homeland Security Investigations. Robert falsely claimed to be a U.S. citizen on employment paperwork related to his position at Des Moines Public Schools in June 2023. He has never been a U.S. citizen. And one thing this highlights is that a lot of these cases take a ton of time as far as getting the investigation together and then possibly finding people guilty or not guilty. When ICE arrested him on September 22nd, 2025, yeah, that seems like just yesterday, right? He knowingly carried a loaded Glock pistol in his vehicle even though he was unlawfully present in the county. He also had 3 more firearms at his home, including a loaded rifle, a loaded pistol, and a shotgun. It is a federal crime for illegal aliens to possess firearms, so he has been found guilty. Moving on to Portland, and we have some other people who have been arrested as well. This is huge. Now, I reported on Portland quite a lot. I covered Katie Davis Court's tracks. I watched what she was doing out there. Katie Davis Court, one of the front runners for getting the Portland story public and people looking into what's happening there. Katie Davis Court is reporting Oregon U.S. District Court Judge Michael Simon has issued a temporary protection order prohibiting federal officers from using tear gas, pepper balls, and other crowd control munitions at the Portland ICE facility. Now, if you guys are unaware, the last, I would say, couple of weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, there's been an increase of protest. So much so in Oregon, not just Portland, also in Eugene, Oregon, down the road from Portland. There's been such an increase of protest that even President Trump has had no choice but to actually address what's happening. And President Trump specifically was referencing Eugene, Oregon, and that building pretty much getting destroyed and President Trump not being happy. So here's a recent clip of what's been happening. Okay, so this has been happening now on a weekly basis. And let me see, I have the actual report here. This is going to be from Allie Bradley. The order is in effect for 14 days. The following ruling, we have it right here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Open image, new tab. Here we go. Temporary restraining order. We've seen this before, right, guys? We've seen this over in Chicago. It almost happened in Minneapolis, but it didn't happen. I have said this time and time again, you have patterns of things happening between sanctuary states or sanctuary jurisdictions, such as things like this, restraining orders. Now, I'm a little surprised it took this long in Portland specifically for this to happen, but it's happening. Temporary restraining order, defendants and their agents, employees, and all persons acting under their direction or in active concert or participation with them collectively are hereby prohibited and enjoined from engaging in or directing or encouraging others to engage in any of the following actions at or in the vicinity of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Building, the Portland ICE building, near the corner of Southwest Moody Avenue and Southwest Bancroft Street. That's where we see all the action go down. No enjoined person may direct or use chemical or projectile munitions, including but not limited to kinetic impact projectiles, pepper balls, or paintball guns, pepper or resin, capsicum spray, tear gas, or other chemical irritants. Soft noise rounds, 40mm or 37mm launchers, less lethal shotguns, and flashbangs. So he's taking everything away. Stinger or rubber ball grenades, unless the specific target or such a weapon or device possess an imminent threat of physical harm. So basically what this order does is the only way that federal agents can use any of these measures would be after the fact, pretty much. Like, you would have to be right there. This cannot be used in preventative measures. It would have to be you are in immediate threat. So basically, we are now just crossing that line, and you have a split second to determine whether or not you're going to use a pepper ball, tear gas, or whatever you're going to do. So, I think every journalist ever who covers protests will probably be paying attention to this weekend's activities in Portland. I hope nothing happens. That would be great. But the fact we've seen what happens when these type of court orders take place. When a woman named Cloud in Portland tried to sue the city because 911 calls were not being answered, and she lost the suit, literally that night and so on, we saw an increase of protest. And that was due to the city saying we don't have to respond to these 911 calls and the noise complaints. And then you guys saw what happened from there. From mid-July, or the end of July, up until October, constant clashes up until the Portland police decided that they're going to start to intervene. But I'm just letting you guys know, when it comes to judicial orders, they have massive impacts as far as what can occur on the ground. Now, Katie Davis Court also recently reported that she thinks a new encampment might be being formed outside of the Portland ICE facility. This is from Katie. And if you guys know anything about encampments out there, that has always been a little bit of drama with the encampments, where the police were allowing for one encampment to be on the sidewalk, and then eventually, after months of being there, the police took it down, and there was a back and forth between protesters, and even city councilors were getting involved, very upset with the police.
And an ice agent. And it's like literally about
Now, it should be noted, if we're going to call this an encampment, this is located, so the ice building would be to the left, where my cursor is right over here. So this would actually be closer than the other encampment that was a little more famous, to the right down the sidewalk, if we're going to call this an encampment.
Like, almost listen to where was it when the encampment got spent for the encampment? Where was the money for the storage? You know, where was the money to go get this, to bring back the stuff?
Alrighty, so yeah, that is Katie Davis Court, and I try to report that story as fair as possible. I like to get all the different talking points and perspective, so I will probably be paying a little more attention to Portland and see what happens there. So that is the current update with Portland, if you guys were curious. This is the other massive story right now. Let me know if you guys heard about this. ICE arrest illegal alien 1 week before graduation from New Orleans. Police Department Academy training issued firearm. So this guy was about to graduate through the police academy down in New Orleans. And we recently just had Operation Catahoula Crunch. You guys remember the New Orleans Police Department said, we're not going to be cooperating with federal agents when it comes to deportations. Well, now they're back in the news.
We have a new development that we know that...
And I apologize for the audio. That is on their end.
We have a new development that we know that you are not aware of yet, but we also know that it will become a newsworthy item, and therefore we're going to go ahead and share it with you. We don't have a lot that I can tell you. But as of this morning, ICE did indeed take into custody one of our police recruits, who was we hired and was in the police academy at the time. We've had conversations with ICE regarding this. There was no struggle involved in any of it. The person was actually, the recruit was taken into custody without any incident whatsoever. So what you would want to know about this particular person is that on our end, when we were doing the hiring process, there was nothing that was in the packet that would have us have reason to believe that this person did not have legal status. There is some question.
And look, the Trump administration has always said that's why we want to work with you, so you have the resources. If there's any red flag or any question or anything, you know, we want to have lines of communication. And thank you so much for the very generous $2 donation. Sitting with Dog says, don't pull back, double down. By the way, this is the New Orleans police superintendent.
That may have developed later, but there was a signed order by a judge for his removal back in December.
Okay, so let me replay that real quick.
That may have developed later, but there was a signed order by a judge for his removal back in December.
So there you go. You guys can let me know how you feel about that. New Orleans back in the news. We already saw this. And do I want to play that for you guys? Do you guys want to see what the mayor of Baltimore has to say about a car costing $165,000? And he got asked about it, and he's not happy, I guess, that this question keeps getting asked. I just found it interesting because, Baltimore is another city on the list of the Trump administration as far as wanting to possibly federally surge.
But with that, his vehicle is still $55,000 less than yours. So, again, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Okay, Tessa, we'll just stop you right there. We get it. We understand that your station has this severe right-wing effort underway. We get that. But you also, you guys are dragging this thing out and also not including all the facts. A vehicle that was purchased in 2023 is not the same price as 2025, right? You have to understand that reality. When you look at, I'm talking, you can let me talk, please. We heard your question. You've asked the same idiotic question now for 3 months.
This is the mayor of Baltimore. That is what Eric is reporting.
We understand that when you look at a base price for SUVs, base price of SUVs now are, as you know, between $90,000 and $100,000. You're talking about a police vehicle with police equipment on it added on top of that vehicle. It's very simple. And when you look at, these are not astronomical costs, right? You guys in your station in particular would never ask the president of the United States how much the beast costs. You wouldn't do that. You would never do that.
So again, his argument is vehicles in 2023 are not what they used to be. I agree with that, by the way. The vehicles are generally a little more expensive, but the pushback is this is a $165,000 vehicle, and he's saying, again, his argument is this is not a big deal considering the additives to the vehicle.
This is ridiculous. Let it go. Next question.
For Governor Moore as well, his car costs about $78,000 to $80,000, and he drives across the state. Governor Homan's car costs $70,000 now. Again, that was bought when he was state.
That's a long time ago. And I also would. Well, you looked at. I understand that. I did answer the question. Just because you didn't get the answer that you wanted in your racist slant, that's one thing. But what I will say to you.
All right, so I just wanted to play that clip for you guys. That was circulating, and I had no reason to make a whole dedicated video for that. And let me play this for you guys. I know a lot of you have been wanting to know what's happening with this. Here is Mark Kelly. I'm sure you guys know there's a bit of a legal battle going on between Pete Hegseth and Mark Kelly.
Out of federal court here in Washington. Hey folks, I just got out of federal court here in Washington, D.C. In my case against Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. First of all, I really appreciate the judge giving this very timely consideration. This is about everybody's rights as Americans, delineated in the Constitution, specifically about the First Amendment. That as Americans, we have the right to say what we want, especially when it comes to the government. And in doing my job as a United States Senator on the Armed Services Committee, this administration, the president, didn't like what I said. And for that, I'm in federal court today. But this isn't just about me. This is about all Americans, especially retired service members. Over 2 million retired service members who this government is telling them they do not have the same free speech rights as everybody else. That's wrong, it's un-American, and it has to stop.
Alrighty, so you guys can let me know how you feel about that. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely gained some education as far as if you are retired, Now, he's referring to it as free speech. There are limitations as to what you can do and not do if you're getting money because of your time and service. And, yep. So that is pretty much all of the most relevant information I think you guys are going to get. There's a ton of back and forth right now that's going to be occurring as far as, impeach Kristi Noem, abolish ICE, reform ICE, the SAVE Act. And so I will be monitoring that for you guys. Later today, I will have another video coming out about another story. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you guys so much for all being here. Thank you to the members. I appreciate all of you guys. And thank you to everybody who took the time to watch this live stream, click on the video. And I hope I was as fair as possible for you guys. I always try to give both of the talking points and try to, give you guys the best information we can out there as far as the separate sides of the political spectrum. So, yeah, I will definitely also be paying attention to Portland a lot more. I got to start getting my energy drinks in because that is a tough story to cover. Emotionally draining, physically draining. That's a very, very hard story to cover. So I'm going to do my best to do that for you guys. Alrighty. Hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. And like I always say, please pray for peace. We're very big advocates here for peace. We need that right now. God bless all of you guys. Thank you. And seek Christ, people. I appreciate all of you. Thank you guys for everything. And we will see you all later. God bless you. Thank you, guys.